Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're setting off on a strict, forward-marching timeline through the history of a truly breathtaking region, Ladakh. We're going to trace the fascinating and honestly pretty dramatic journey of this high-altitude landscape. We'll start way back in its most isolated ancient valleys and march all the way through to its modern rebirth as an administrative entity. If you want to understand exactly how this rugged terrain evolved over thousands of years to become an absolute focal point of global geopolitics, well, you're in the right place. We're going to unpack the centuries step by step.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a beautifully structured roadmap ahead of us today. We'll start with prehistory and early civilizations, move right into Buddhism and the Silk Route, explore the rise of the Namgyal dynasty, and then track the era of shifting borders and empires. Finally, we'll navigate through those intense high-altitude conflicts before arriving at Ladakh's modern status as a Union territory.
All right, Section 1, Prehistory and Early Civilizations. Let's ground our story right at the very beginning in the deep, frozen landscapes of antiquity. Think about this for a second. Long before anyone was keeping written records, early valley dwellers left their very first marks directly on the unmoving stones of the mountains. They etched these petroglyphs straight into the rock face, simple but incredibly powerful images of people hunting, trying their hand at early farming, and rearing animals. These ancient stones quietly hold the history of a civilization in its absolute infancy. I mean, surviving against those harsh elements, the freezing winters, the arid summers, these early inhabitants laid this incredibly resilient foundation for literally everything that was to come. They proved that human life couldn't just survive in this high-altitude desert, it could actually thrive. Moving forward to Section 2, Buddhism and the Silk Route. From those silent stone carvings, we step into the 2nd to 7th centuries, a massive spiritual and commercial awakening. During this era, Ladakh was no longer just a collection of quiet, isolated valleys. Vital commodities, we're talking wool, salt, tea, and spices, began flowing rapidly through the region. Traders and monks started arriving from Kashmir and Central Asia, bravely navigating some of the most perilous, oxygen-deprived mountain passes on Earth. And what's really fascinating here is that these travelers didn't just bring goods to trade, they brought revolutionary ideas. This is the precise era when Buddhism was introduced to the region. Grand monasteries started dotting the high valleys, serving as spiritual sanctuaries and, frankly, safe havens for weary travelers. The colorful flutter of prayer flags became a permanent fixture in the winds of Ladakh, blending right in with this bustling, lucrative trade network. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of Ladakh's transformation. The region underwent a complete geographic metamorphosis in terms of its utility to the wider world. It evolved from this remote, hidden mountain terrain that seemed totally cut off from the rest of humanity into a thriving, highly interconnected cultural hub. It became a literal bridge connecting Central Asia, Tibet, and Kashmir. This amazing fusion of commercial wealth and deep spiritual devotion created a uniquely cosmopolitan society right in the middle of the Himalayas. Which brings us to Section 3, Rise of the Namgyal Dynasty. As wealth grew, so did the need for centralized leadership. Around 930 AD, a Tibetan prince laid the foundation for a brand new royal lineage. The absolute peak of this golden age hit in the 17th century under the famed King Sengi Namgyal. Now, he wasn't just managing a quiet kingdom. The guy was an ambitious empire builder. He boldly expanded Ladakh's influence outward, pushing boundaries into Zanskar, deep into Tibet, and all the way across to Baltistan. And to cement his legacy, and really to project his absolute authority over those crucial trade routes, he ordered the construction of the magnificent Leh Palace. Built to overlook the bustling city, this towering architectural marvel was a strategic stronghold. It was a stunning physical testament to the unprecedented glory of the Namgyal dynasty, sending a very clear message to any traveling merchant or rival. Ladakh was a sovereign force to be reckoned with. But of course, things change. Section 4. Shifting borders and empires. History shows us that growing power inevitably brings geopolitical enmity, and Ladakh's prosperity eventually caught the eye of massive neighboring powers. So it's really crucial to understand this rapid, devastating loss of local autonomy. Surrounded by growing empires, Ladakh faced immense pressure. In 1679, Tibet attacked. Facing defeat, Ladakh actually had to call on the Mughal governor of Kashmir for a rescue. The Mughals repelled the Tibetans, but, and here's the catch, that help came with a crippling annual tribute tax that completely drained Ladakh's treasury for decades. Fast forward a bit to 1834. The Dogro general Zorawar Singh crossed the mountains and conquered Ladakh. folding it into the expanding Dogar Empire. Finally, in 1846, following the Treaty of Amritsar, Ladakh was placed under formal British protection as part of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. The era of the independent mountain kings? Yeah, that was over. The old trade routes slowly faded, and external empires now firmly held the reins.
Let's jump ahead to Section 5, High-Altitude Modern Conflicts. Fast forward to 1947, and the integration of the region instantly placed Ladakh at the dead center of modern border sensitivities between India, Tibet, and China. The pace of history accelerates dramatically here in the 20th century. In 1948, right after independence, Pakistan-backed tribal attacks penetrated deep into the region before the Indian Army repelled them, securing Leh just in the nick of time. Then, in 1962, simmering border tensions with China erupted into full-scale war, which resulted in China capturing the Aksai region. By 1971, Ladakh was once again a critical warfront, and in 1999, the world watched as the Indian Army fought grueling battles to secure the heights of Kargil. You really have to keep in mind the extreme geographical challenges here. We are talking about armies navigating combat at altitudes often exceeding 15,000 feet, places where simply breathing is a struggle. These events firmly established Ladakh not just as a cultural heritage site, but as a heavily militarized focal point of global strategy.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our final chapter, Section 6, A Modern Union Territory. We are now pivoting entirely away from the ancient past to focus squarely on modern administrative governance. On August 5, 2019, Ladakh experienced a monumental administrative shift. It was officially separated from the state of Jammu and Kashmir to become its own distinct union territory. This is a complete departure from everything we just discussed. We're looking at a purely constitutional transition aimed at modern governance. No more kings, no more empires. Practically, this means direct federal administration from New Delhi. It brings a renewed focus on local development, building up modern infrastructure, and fostering sustainable economic growth tailored specifically to the region's needs. It's a brand new legal and civic framework designed to propel Ladakh forward and equip it with the administrative tools necessary to navigate the 21st century. Which leaves us with this final, really vital question to ponder. With this newly defined administrative identity, how exactly will Ladakh balance its critical strategic and geopolitical role with the preservation of its deeply rich culture moving forward? It's a fascinating challenge for a resilient region that has already survived millennia of incredible change. Thank you so much for joining me on this chronological journey through the history of Ladakh. I hope this explainer helped structure the timeline for you. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.